Nathan Melton. I am a resident of the city of Calhoun, and I am offering information to the people of the Calhoun community, TDEC, as well as the EPA, information that may be relevant to the delineation of wetlands that may be subject to the jurisdiction under Section 404 of the Clean Waters Act or Section 10 of the Rivers and Harbors Act. I am addressing information directly to TDEC permit writer Stephen Taraski and Director Paul Davis of Water Pollution Control for the state of Tennessee, whose office is charged with the task of writing permits for mining operations, that is, potential quarry owners and operators. First, I want to clearly state to the permit writer for this potential quarry on the Calhoun, Tennessee site that this area is most likely a wetlands area. As an integral part of the permit application process, the quarry owners and operators have offered a wetland study performed by Thomas Bechtold, who was compensated by the quarry owners. This stream wetland assessment was dated in September 2008. It appears to have been completed for an unknown parent company of the quarry owners. EPA regulations mandate that material relating to permits should have complete transparency about ownerships and therefore accountability. Having another unknown business entity named on this wetland study creates confusion and invalidates this wetland study, particularly because of the age as well. Now on this date, I also contend that this wetland study is invalid since it was done in September 2008, which was during a drought time and was one of the worst droughts in 100 years. The drought conditions found in 2008 actually began in 2006 and were not mentioned in the report from the ecologist. This raises questions as to its thoroughness. Additionally, there is no credibility to this 2008 study since it did not reference up-to-date information. The basis for the analysis of this September 2008 study was the 1987 Corps of Engineers Wetland Delineation Manual. Even though the 1987 manual is still utilized, there is a new guideline to supplement this manual entitled Interim Regional Supplement to the Corps of Engineers Wetland Delineation Manual, Eastern Mountains and Piedmont Region, which has been in effect since July of this year and written precisely for our region of the southeastern United States. A renowned wetland specialist in our nation, Dr. James S. Wakely, has sent a personal email explaining how this new manual was written expressly for our region of the country, that is the Piedmont and Eastern Mountain area of the United States. This new wetland delineation manual for our area had supplemented and superseded the 1987 version of the Corps of Engineers manual for our area. I will quote from the introduction of this manual to prove the point. This regional supplement presents wetland indicators, delineation guidance, guidelines, and other information that is specific to the Eastern Mountains and the Piedmont region. And that region includes Tennessee specifically. Also from the introduction out of Chapter 1, I quote, this regional supplement is designed for use with the current version of the Corps of Engineers manual, the 1987 version, and all subsequent versions. Where differences in the two documents occur, this regional supplement takes precedence over the Corps manual for application in the Eastern Mountains and the Piedmont region. I submit to permit writer Mr. Stephen Taraski and Director Paul Davis that this manual in my hand, I have a copy of it, I've been studying it, expressly for our area in the southeastern U.S. and having been available for several months, should have been the manual utilized to analyze this property for wetlands delineation. Since the ecologist who analyzed this area for wetlands evaluation did not use the most current information, this process of permitting this quarry should cease at this moment and should not begin until an up-to-date wetland analysis is made by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, who will, upon request by the landowners, make this assessment at no cost to the landowners. This permit process should not continue until the landowners properly complete this integral step in our application process. I plan to have a grab sample of this stream running underneath the road, the Usanal Road, County Road 971, analyzed by a reputable laboratory. We've already seen people who have spoke and talked about that, taking samples that will be monitored, has been monitored, and will be monitored. A committee of concerned citizens will maintain a file of these results for future comparisons. A grab sample can be acquired easily without leaving Usanawa roadway, just in case the stream's water analysis, pH, or gallons per minute flow is altered significantly in the future. I am submitting to the permit writer that within this application permit process, there is clearly no real mitigation plan which must be implemented to offer protection of this creek as well as the streams which are actually unnamed. I think we ought to actually name those unnamed tributaries. Typically, where there are several tributaries, streams, springs, and a creek flowing within almost level properties give rise to the presence of wetlands. However, with several successive years of drought-like conditions, indicators would be less observable. Therefore, if chapters 1 through 4 of the new manual did not identify wetlands, let me direct your attention to the details given in chapter 5 of this wetlands delineation manual for the Piedmont and East Mountain area. This very in-depth and comprehensive chapter, which directly relates to our area in the southeastern United States, considerably broadens the scope of wetland characteristics, assessing guidelines and analyses, not just observing vegetation or taking soil samples. Chapter 5 is written expressly for our drought-stricken time. It takes into account disturbed wetlands and unusual climatic conditions such as a drought. From the beginning statement of Chapter 5, which is titled Difficult Wetland Situations in this area, I quote, "Some wetlands can be difficult to identify because wetland indicators may be missing due to natural processes or recent disturbances. This chapter provides guidance for making wetland determinations in difficult to identify wetland situations in the eastern mountains and Piedmont region. And it is obvious to any person that this property was altered by man, considering pine trees did not get on this property in neat rows without man's assistance, especially on the site which previously did not predominantly contain pine trees. Of course, when man alters land, he disturbs layers of soil that negates most findings via layers of soil samples. Chapter 5 takes into account the fact that many properties have already been disturbed by man. Thus, other characteristics of the land are assessed. Furthermore, Chapter 5 discusses the necessity to evaluate an area for wetlands during the normal wet portion of the growing season, which is generally in the spring. The date of the assessment from the report submitted by the quarry owners from 2008 was dated in late September, one of the last months of the driest time of the year. Again, this raises serious questions as to the thoroughness of this report. In summary, in September 2008, when this wetland study was dated, there were well-documented conditions of drought throughout the Tennessee Valley. Absolutely no mention was made of these conditions when this ecologist wrote this 2008 study. For a hydrologist or an ecologist to fail to mention human alteration when doing soil samples, or the fact that there were conditions of drought, is indicative of a study that should be totally unacceptable to the Army Corps of Engineers, TDEC, the state of Tennessee, and the EPA. The wetland assessment submitted did not utilize current information. Having not used the most current information for analysis puts the permit writer for this rock quarry, as well as the state of Tennessee, at great risk for making a major mistake which can lead to litigation and appeals regarding this permit process. For the permit writer for this quarry and to Mr. Paul Davis, Tennessee Director of Division of Water Pollution Control, I am submitting this information to validate that there has not been a valid wetlands analysis made of this property. This permit application process should be halted until the United States Corps of Engineers can do a valid current delineation of wetland study of this property using the proper assessment instruments and methods with the correct name of the business clearly identified. Thank you for receiving my information.